The Night of the Hunter was released in 1955 and was directed by Charles Laughton. It stars Robert Mitchum, Shelley Winters, and Lillian Gish, and follows the story of two children whose father is arrested for robbing a bank. However, he is able to give this money to his children before he is arrested to hide away for later. And when he is in prison, he is in the same room as a man that claims to be a preacher. And so this preacher discovers about this fortune, and when he leaves prison, seeks these children out and tries to get in good favor with them and her mother to eventually steal their fortune. Guys, this is one of my favorite films of all time, and this is yet another viewer-requested review from a friend of mine that actually introduced this film to me. This is also one of his favorite films of all time, and I watched this about a year ago and just absolutely fell in love with it, and so I'm excited to finally talk about it here. The Night of the Hunter is one of the most terrifying films that I've ever seen without actually being that much of a horror film. This is a very interesting film with some vile characters, but some light at the end of the tunnel, and has a lot of stuff going on, particularly with commentary about the Great Depression, as well as putting our faith in leaders that are not on our side. Robert Mitchum's character of Harry Powell is one of the most despicable and evil characters that I have ever seen put to screen, and he is just so wonderful in this film. Robert Mitchum gives perhaps his best performance that I've ever seen from him, and I've only seen a few of his films, but in terms of like a despicable character, I would definitely put this character and this performance over his character in Cape Fear. But this is just a performance that really makes the movie. And I love how the movie begins with this little story that Lillian Gish's character gives to us. She basically gives us the thesis of the film, how people can be wolves in sheep's clothing, and that is exactly what Harry Powell is in this film. He disguises himself as a preacher. He may in fact be a preacher, but he is filled with evil on the inside and wants nothing but to do harm to people. There's this incredible moment at the beginning of this film. It's when we are introduced to him. These children find a woman's body in this house, and we see that Harry Powell is going on the road and everything, and he's talking to God. He's basically doing the Lord's will with what he's doing. He is a very sick and evil man, but he is so charismatic and just has such a great way with words that he is able to bend people to his will. And it's incredibly haunting. Like, the fact that he is able to sway Shelley Winters' character, who are the children's mother in this film, to his side. And she basically gets brainwashed in just some of the most horrifying scenes I've ever seen. Like, I've never seen a church put in a film that is as terrifying as the church scene that is in this film. We see basically just braziers everywhere, just fire, flame, torches. It's really terrifying and extremely haunting as Shelley Winters confesses her sins, and it's horrific, and the people just bend to her will and bend to Robert Mitchum's character's will. It's just, oh, it's so fantastic. It has so much to say with doing so little, and I absolutely love that. Continuing on with talking about Robert Mitchum, because he really is the star of this film. I love the scene earlier on where we look at his knuckles and he's got printed love and hate on his knuckles, and he tells this story about him battling with good and evil, and it's just incredibly entertaining, but also extremely haunting, especially when he begins to try to get this fortune from the children. And it's just so well done. The way he says, old children, is just extremely haunting. One of the scariest performances I have ever seen. I also love how he can make such an innocent and beautiful song just the scariest thing ever. Throughout the film, he sings Leaning on the Everlasting Arm, and it's such a beautiful song. As somebody that grew up in the church, it's such a great song, and he just turns it into the most vilest thing ever. In fact, they use a lot of music throughout this film, I noticed, to really settle into the tone of the story and to introduce something about the characters, which I really did like. These songs have a lot to say about the characters, and they add some emotional weight, specifically near the end when we get introduced to Lillian Gish's character, as our children escape from Harry Powell and come into her aid. And there's this great final confrontation between the two of them. Lillian Gish is sitting, in the front living room and everything, waiting for Harry Powell to just come, and she's ready with a shotgun to just blast him away if she has to. And there's this moment where he's singing a song, and then she starts singing it as well, and it's just a beautiful moment. Lillian Gish is also incredible in this film. Lillian Gish is perhaps my favorite actress of all time, and this is the only sound performance that I have seen from her, and she's just elegant as ever. As soon as she's on screen, you have her attention, and she's just wonderful. She's this great character that gives some really interesting insight to our main characters, our two little children, as they go about their journey trying to find a home. It's so well done. She is incredible. If Robert Mitchum is like the best part of this film, she is definitely the second best part of this film. I also want to talk a little bit about the directing of this film. The use of shadows and the look of the film in particular are just incredible. Charles Laughton, who was a fantastic actor himself, really did a stellar job of creating this really interesting and evil type of world that, we really see the underbelly of what is underneath all the what we claim to be good, and we see the evil start to seep into the world, and he just does that so wonderfully. The way he directs his actors and his actresses to give some of the best performances that I have ever seen. It is sad to me that he never got to see the success of his film, because upon this film's release, it was not particularly well received and has only gotten better with time, but I wish he could have lived to see just how people have gravitated towards this film, and I think more people need to see this film and know that it exists, because I didn't know anything about this film until my friend that wanted me to do this review told me about it, and I'm so glad he did. But the directing is just phenomenal. The score, the music, the cinematography, the acting, it's all just completely stellar. Now, this is one of my favorite films of all time. I would say that it is even a perfect film. However, there are some nitpicks that I have, particularly with the children in this film, the main two children. Their acting, for the most part, is not the best, but there are some moments where they are just incredible. However, there's some line deliveries throughout the film that I'm not particularly a fan of, particularly with the character of John. when they are taking his father away. It's one of the kind of worst, like, line deliveries I think I've ever seen, where he's just like, no. No! And it's just, it kind of drives me insane, and it kind of takes me out of the moment. However, despite that, and it only happens twice throughout the movie, just a moment like that, where he's like, don't. It happens at the beginning of the film, and it happens once again at the end of the film. But that is only two small nitpicks that I have with the film. The rest of the film has incredible acting, directing, cinematography, music. The themes of the story are just incredible, and you can really relate this film to what has happened today, with how even people like politicians can bring people to their side. And it's an incredible film that I just absolutely adore. So anyway, guys, with all that said, I'm going to give The Night of the Hunter a 9 out of 10. Well, guys, I want to thank you for watching this review, and I definitely recommend, if you have not seen or even heard of The Night of the Hunter, please check it out. It is available right now for free on Amazon Prime, so check it out there. And I want to thank my friend Jacob, who recommended me to watch this movie and review it for the channel, and also introducing me to this film. It's a film that I am constantly thinking about. It's just such a good film. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next review.